Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Royal Instinct. Today we are going to look at the drama involving Sneako and Andrew Tate. Because this got quite ugly. Okay, these were two people who were apparently aligned in ideology, in philosophy, in friendship. Okay, they were former friends, former partners. They were beacons of light to millions of men across the globe. Okay, they were friends, um, fighting the system together, fighting tyranny and evil and corruption. Yet they are now stabbing each other in the back. Okay, more Andrew Tate stabbing Sneako and throwing him under the bus. Okay, to garner headlines. Okay, to disparage, assassinate each other's character, and it is becoming ugly. It is causing many millions of men within the manosphere to capitulate, to go up in arms, to switch sides, to choose sides. Okay, Andrew Tate is somebody who took the world by storm and ended up really being ostracized by society, being made a villain. When in essence, when you really just have to look at it for what it is, he was playing a character. Okay, he was doing a big marketing campaign, right? And many people can't differentiate from the fact that he was just running a massive marketing campaign to drive more money and funnel more money into his business, right? To make a quick buck. Okay, however, because of the way he blew up, because he was running his mouth like a crazy lunatic, he eventually, governments looked at him and they were like, nope, we're not going to allow you to have a platform. Okay, we're going to strip you of your assets. We're going to make an example of you. Okay, he is somebody who flew too close to the sun. Okay, just saying the most vile, craziest things possible in order to rile up his haters, his detractors. Okay, he is somebody who is in essence a warning to many people. Okay, and you know in essence, he had a choice. Okay, sell himself out. Okay, start towing the line. Right. Okay, like he became a celebrity. He reached a certain amount of fame, and they were like, right, okay, do you want to keep your spot or do you want to keep running your fucking mouth? Okay, and many people said no. Many people said that he should carry on fighting the system, but he chose to toe the line, and he is now trying to attack the manosphere from within. Okay, he is now whether he started off as a industry plant or not, right? Because his father was a CIA agent, a former CIA agent, and many times, those families, even when the patriarch dies, their children, their offspring, carry on that legacy. They are still involved in that type of rhetoric. They are still spreading information on behalf of the CIA in order to, navigate and, in order to, involve themselves in the, daily dialogue of people in order to, shape discourse, which is what he is doing, which is what he was able to do. And it is sad to see, right, when somebody sells themselves out, when somebody you know um disparages themselves, when they go against their values and morals. Okay, that is when you know that you have in essence ended your life, right? Whether you're still alive or not. Okay, but you have ended your life, what you stood for, your soul. Right, this is why they call it selling out your soul, because you stop standing for the things that you believed in, and you are now just a puppet in the eyes of the world, in the puppets for the elites, for the global people, people who who are promoting a certain rhetoric in order to gain control, in order to confuse the masses. Okay, and now you are seeing, especially it is a in the wake of the Louis Theroux documentary Inside the Manosphere. It is, you know, the fact that, you know, when a guy like Louis Theroux gets involved, it's over. It's over. Okay, the Manosphere is over. The red pill is over. You know, these things aren't a thing anymore. Okay, it's kind of cringe to be part of it, right? And you know, but these things don't go away. Okay, you know, from, you know, a dying, right, a dying ideology, right, an ideology is like a phoenix. Okay, it dies out, and from the ashes rises a new ideology, a new thing, because those fans still need to follow someone, right? And now they are after clavicular, now they are becoming black pillars and looks maxers. The world is out of control. Okay, the world is in turmoil. Many people are losing hope. Many people are losing, you know, they're losing faith in the current establishment. Okay, they are looking around, they're seeing that their lives aren't filled with, you know, any form of happiness, right? And when you are in a desperate place, okay, you need somebody to come and wake you up. You need somebody to come and, you know, offer you a guide, okay, a new map, a new way to rise to, you know, to the top, to be able to live a great life. And you know, Sneako's now doing that. You know, he's somebody who converted towards Islam. Okay, so he's following a spiritual religious route. Clavicular is, you know, nihilistic in his philosophy. He is, you know, saying like, look, man, world's fucked. You need to ascend by being the best looking person that you can be, because, you know, people love good looking people, which is also, you know, like, you're still playing somebody else's game. Okay, you are still trying to live up towards an ideology. And what I'm here to tell you, what I'm here to, you know, the message that I'm trying to spread is like, you know, like, wake up, but not wake up to somebody else's truth. Okay, you know, be willing to wake up to your own truth, right? You only get one life, right? Everybody wants to live a great life, but you know, only you should be able to dictate what you consider a great life, right? You should be the one who is in charge of your own destiny, which is what I'm here to do, to empower you to become a king. Okay. And the way that we do it is we dive deep into our life purpose. We become people who are seen as subject matter experts. Okay. We become people who are well established, people who are able to garner attention, people who build, you know, in the thing that they find most interesting. Okay, this isn't like us trying to game the system. We're just doing whatever the fuck that we are going to do. We're going to talk about the shit that we want to talk about, right? And you know, naturally, because you're somebody who's aligned in your life purpose, because you are somebody who is willing to take risks, because you are somebody who is ambitious, you know, working within their life purpose, right, towards their destiny, right, a following will naturally happen. Okay, so you don't need to aim for a certain number of subscribers. Okay, you don't need to aim for fans, right? That don't, the people who want to fuck with you will find you. Okay, and they will find you interesting regardless whether you're famous or not. Okay, they will be the true followers, the true people who become participants within your kingdom, people who see you as a leader, because that's what the world needs right now. The world needs more leaders. The world is going to shit, and you need to be the one to step up and do something about it. Otherwise, you know, you're going to leave the game wide open for charlatans to come in, swoop in, and misguide the next generation, the youth. But let's jump into this video.
Why is somebody like him knowingly spreading lies when he could be doing what you're doing? What led you down this path, and what's keeping him on the other side?
I mean, that's the whole premise of selling your soul. It's like you get a bunch of shit that you want and you lose your integrity for it, right? I got
losing your integrity. Okay, what does that mean? Okay, losing your integrity meaning you stop valuing and striving for the things that you find valuable in life. Okay, you go against your belief system, right? Whether if you believe in freedom but you sell out your freedom for material goods, that is selling out your soul, that is compromising your integrity. Okay, and you know, you see these people just flip-flopping. You know, they seem very certain, you know, when it suits them. Okay, at all times, actually, they come across as very certain, right? To the point of delusion. And you have to realize is that they are just willing to say whatever the fuck it is to get views, to gain a following, because they need the attention. They are narcissistic. They are people who have been compromised and are willing to do whatever it takes to make a quick buck.
Not blessed because I got all the things that I wanted already. It's not.
I mean, even this guy, Dan Bilzerian, right? He's somebody who, in essence, you know, he is a nepo baby. His father, you know, embezzled the US government. Okay, he evaded taxes in order for him to, you know, siphon off money and resource and power and leave a trust for his children. Right, Dan Bilzerian then used that money to build a lifestyle, to make himself into a celebrity, for him to have an exceptional dating life. Okay, because he is somebody who was able to hack the system in order to fool the world into being some sort of playboy, but in essence he was just running a massive sugar baby operation. And, you know, I say that without any hate, without any you know, hint of jealousy, because, you know, that is how the world works. Okay, so he is just somebody who figured it out. Okay, then ran the algorithm. Okay, ran the code on the algorithm, and he you know, he got to live the life that he wanted. Okay, he forged his own reality.
Not the center of my universe like it is with PBD, like it is with Tate.
There's an old saying that the brightest flames burn out the fastest. And right now, the internet is watching something that looks a lot like a public meltdown from Andrew.
Yeah, I mean, the fall off of Andrew Tate is just, you know, it is laughable. You know, this is somebody who, you know, whatever you might think of him, okay, he, you know, he it seems like he came up organically. Okay, he created this pyramid scheme, marketing campaign where he was, you know, paying his followers to clip up images of him in order to make a commission of selling his courses for him, right? So he was running this massive pyramid scheme. Okay, his rise was organic. Nobody saw it coming. Nobody knew where he came from, right? He built a platform for himself. Okay, he became a symbol for many millions of people, many millions of disenfranchised young men, and then he used that fame, he used that clout, you know, in order to not fight the system. Okay, at that point you go beyond human status. Okay, and he chose, instead of being a deity, instead of being a symbol, instead of being a prophet, he decided to just be a charlatan, sell himself out so that he can, you know, just siphon as much money for himself as possible and stay out of jail.
Andrew Tate. The man who once crowned himself the top G suddenly seems like someone scrambling to keep the spotlight from slipping away in 2026. What once looked like unstoppable confidence now feels different. Tense. Rushed.
Everything about this guy is performative. Everything about this guy is very calculated. Okay, he is not somebody who, you know, who has the best intentions for you. Okay, he just wants to be perceived as somebody who's having good intentions for people, which is why you are now seeing him fall off, which is why you're not now seeing him you know, becoming irrelevant. Okay, he is literally begging Caligula you know, to allow him to manage him like an OnlyFans girl, manage his career, to align himself with his ideology, his fan base, because, you know, Andrew Tate is realizing he is becoming more and more irrelevant. It is a sad state to see somebody fall and stoop so low.
Almost desperate. And people across social media are starting to notice the shift. But the wildest part of this whole situation is the person calling it out. Sneako.
A few years ago, there was a streamer, I think everybody knows who I'm talking about, who was obsessed with me. If I got a girl's number on Fresh and Fit, he tried to do the same thing. Every single thing I did, he copied verbatim. He tried to be me, literally be.
I mean, he's not wrong. Okay, Sneako is somebody who really, when he saw his attention, you saw a reality star, a live streamer, really fall for his grift, in real time in front of the camera, which is how many young men felt across the world. Okay, so he is a great case study of how someone gets indoctrinated, okay, into the cult of Tate, right? This is how somebody becomes a follower of his. Okay, and he really changed the way he spoke. He started speaking the same way as Tate did, started dressing the same way as he did. Okay, he started believing the same ideologies as he did, right? Built his, you know, left whatever. I mean, 'cause the thing is, he never had his own beliefs to begin with, right? So he then followed somebody else's belief system, and then he is somebody who became obsessed with, following this guy, and living up to that person's expectations. He even changed religions to match what Tate was doing, right? Like, if you look at why Sneako became Muslim, why he followed Islam, he will say, "Oh no, it's the only religion that made sense to me." Right? That is not what it was. It was like he saw somebody else do it, and he decided to do the same because his, um, Lord and Savior Andrew Tate decided to do it, and then he done it, and then look, he will say, however, whichever way I got into Islam, okay, I'm here now, and now I see the truth and the beauty of whatever that religion is, okay. Now I see, now I get to read the Quran, I get to do all these things, I get to go to Mecca, I follow the spiritual path laid out by the Prophet Muhammad, and my life is more in, I'm more at peace with myself, I'm more, serene in my life. Yet, like, for a long time, even though he was a Muslim, even though he was following Islam, he was still, promoting OnlyFans girls on his live streams. He was still involving himself with, degeneracy, gambling, all these things, late night, CD clubs, right? Even just, a few months ago, they were throwing Heil Hitler salutes the inside the Miami nightclub, which is why this whole beef even started. So it is someone who it doesn't even have a sense of direction for himself. He's somebody who is just, literally willing to follow anybody who is more certain in their life, which is why you need to, figure out what you believe in life, okay? And nobody can tell you if you're right or wrong, okay? It is your life. You decide what it is that is correct. You can only decide how you want to live your life, okay? Which is a path of a king, okay? This is why we are establishing kingdoms. We are establishing new nations. We are becoming kings on this channel.
Over the past few months, Sneako has been slowly pulling the curtain back piece by piece, and the image Andrew Tate spent years building online is starting to show cracks that are getting harder and harder to ignore. If you've been paying attention to internet culture lately, you probably noticed something else changing too. The whole manosphere wave that once dominated podcasts, TikTok clips, and viral debates has slowed down a lot. For a while, creators built entire platforms arguing.
Yeah, it slowed down because it just became boring. Right? All they were, saying is, oh, these women are so bad. They're all whores, right? They were really bashing women for a long time. They were like, oh, you need to become rich. You need to, be a man. You need to be this type of masculinity. Like, at the end of the day, look, man, like, most people don't give a fuck about all that shit. Okay, all they want is peace and quiet. A good group of friends. They want to enjoy their life. They want to have a laugh. Okay, but it is becoming increasingly more and more difficult, which is why we are here on this channel promoting how to become a king, how to live a life of a king, live a life of luxury. Don't give a fuck about what other people say about you. Be in your own lane. Don't look up to anybody else's ideology. My ideology, the one that I'm pushing on this channel, is for you to take ownership of your own life, for you to become a king so that you can live life on your terms. Okay. I'm not telling you how to be a man, right? You determine that for yourself, right? And you live that path yourself, right? But establish a moat around it, establish castle walls, establish a kingdom around it so that you can at least be safe within your own space, in your own lane, within your own niche. Be a point of authority within your niche. Okay. Be seen as somebody who is of importance, a subject matter expert.
Arguing about relationships and pushing alpha advice across every social media feed. But the internet moves fast, audiences grow up, trends shift, and what once felt unstoppable can suddenly start fading.
Somebody like him knowingly spreading lies when he could be doing what you're doing. What led you down this path and what's keeping him on the other side?
I mean, that's the whole premise of
Dan Bilzerian is somebody who went fully anti-Semitic. He is totally against the state of Israel, okay, because of the genocide that they are committing on Palestine, right? Literally flattening the country. It is absolutely diabolical what they are doing over there. But Andrew Tate is unwilling to speak out against it. He is somebody who is, I think, at this point they look like they are being controlled by Israeli spies, by Israeli honeypot traps that have been set in place. They're dating, Israeli women. it seems that they've been compromised. Okay, their businesses are set up within Israel, their servers run in Israel. They are now at a stage where they are following the tune of the Israeli government in a sense, right? And so at this point, they are just another asset for the Israeli arm to use, just how Jeffrey Epstein
selling
was.
your soul. It's like you get a bunch of shit that you want and you lose your integrity for it, right? I got blessed because I got all the things that I wanted already. It's not the center of my universe like it is with PBD, like it is with Tate. It's going to be impossible for those people not to be ultimately compromised if somebody wants it.
Platforms have tightened their rules. Viewers have moved on to new conversations, and the
Yeah, because like when you get an anomaly like Andrew Tate pop out of nowhere and take the world by storm as he did in 2001, the platforms, the powers that to be, the governments are all going to come together. We're like, right, okay, we let it through the net. It slipped through one time. How do we stop it from happening ever again? And then you really see in real time how these people are able to, in essence, really um be controlled. Okay, and the next phase of content creators, they now have smaller guidelines, smaller and tighter parameters to follow, in order so this type of person doesn't become a viral sensation anymore, so that they are not blindsided by another potential Andrew Tate, so that they are only allowing the people to blow up big on these platforms who whose messaging is approved by the state, messaging who is approved by these tech CEOs. This is what they want. They want to be in control of the messages that are being spread across the internet. Okay, because the authorities, the governments, the people in charge of the world, they want you to toe a line, and they want to push a specific narrative so that you aren't able to think for yourself, that you become increasingly more and more dependent on the state, on the algorithms, for you to get your information, so that you do not trust yourself and become somebody who is easy to manipulate.
environment that once boosted personalities like Tate just isn't the same anymore. And when your entire brand depends on attention, losing that attention hits hard.
Boys, you know what I'm doing right now? I'm genuinely sat here actually feeling bad, because I actually am a nice person, bro. And I actually feel bad for him right now that he's risked it all and he's losing like this. It's a violation to his life.
Yeah, I mean, Andrew Tate's whole aura, his own belief system, his ideology, the messaging that he was trying to portray to people, the things that he stood for, all disappeared that one night when he lost his boxing match to Chase Damore, when the world saw the supposed top G, the ultimate alpha, the man that everybody should aspire to be, ended up being just a fugazi. Okay, he was a fraud, right? His fighting prowess was it was false, right? He is somebody who in essence just lied his way to the top. Okay, told you that he was this dangerous man, and in the end he was just somebody who it was all smoke and mirrors. Okay, and when those mirrors smash into pieces and you see that it is just all fake smoke, literally just hot air, gas, that was an illusion that people believed and bought into. His followers looked around a bit, were like, okay, this was our leader, was this the person that we were following? Okay, and then they were like, fuck this, man. Okay, and that is why his relevance has dwindled. That is why he became irrelevant. This is how he became a nobody, and it is hurting him. He is now a wounded animal who is willing to fight for scraps to get relevance in any way, shape, or form.
He's fucked his whole legacy, bro. What an absolute...
Yeah, he really should not have taken that fight. Even people close to his camp, his managers, his team behind the scenes were telling him not to take the fight. Okay, and this is what happened. Okay, he was so bought into his invincibility, his delusion that he had about himself, about his abilities, and the aura that he was able to create, all pushed him into a false sense of invincibility, in essence, right? He is somebody who really bought into his his audacious nature and the statements that he made, and thought that this is, he is unstoppable, he is undefeatable. And in the end, all it took was a reality TV star with no fighting experience, okay, just to like outlast him in the ring. Because like, if you look at that fight, it's not like Chase the Moore was a skilled fighter, okay. It was, it was a sad thing to watch. Many people say, he got his comeuppance. He is somebody who, was brought down a peg or two, but he fell so hard. I don't think he will ever be able to recover, okay. And he'll always just be there in the background, lingering like a bad smell, like a fart. Just always hovering around, always trying to remind you of the relevance that he had. He is a has-been, and he will not come back.
So what happens when someone built on constant visibility starts feeling the spotlight slip away? According to critics, they start swinging at anything that might bring the attention back. And recently, one of those targets became Sneako. But here's where things got interesting. Instead of backing down,
I mean, the old Tate would have never spoken about Sneako, okay? Sneako was, his a follower of his. Sneako was somebody who, was a poor man's version of Andrew Tate, okay? And because Tate was setting the bar so high, he would have never allowed himself to stoop so low to be, he might spend some time with him, okay, but he wouldn't debate him on anything, okay? He saw him as inferior, right? But when his relevance has dwindled, when he needs the views, the clicks, he is now just starting internet beef with Sneako in order to gain, relevance through Sneako's audience, okay? Because Sneako is somebody who's on the up and up, okay? His content is taking off. He is back on YouTube after a suspension for a couple of years. And now, Andrew Tate is seeing that, and he's like, oh, wait, okay, I'm the one who put this guy on, right? And now I'm having to, play second fiddle to this guy. Okay, let me go steal some of his audience. Let me put him down a peg or two in order to gain fame over this guy, so that I can become more relevant. Okay, that is what is going through Tate's mind. That is what he is seeing this opportunity as, which is why he is going after Sneako. This is why Andrew Tate is making a example and assassinating Sneako's character in order for him to stay relevant and stay in the game.
Sneako stepped forward and challenged Tate on something Tate used to talk about constantly: principles. For years, Andrew Tate built his entire empire around the idea of strict, unbreakable values. He told millions of young men not to bend under pressure, not to sell out, and never chase approval from the system. His message was simple: stand firm no matter what the world throws at you. But according to Sneako, something about that message stopped lining up with Tate's recent actions.
This is the stuff that pissed me off. So Tate tweets, as soon as the strikes happen, Tate tweets, nobody wants this war. Tate, you have tech teams in Israel. You have tech teams in Israel. You said, you and your brother allegedly said that your tech teams in Israel can pull the plug on your business at any second.
I mean, when you allow somebody to have that much control over your businesses, where you literally give somebody else the opportunity and responsibility to keep your business afloat, to keep the lights on in your business, and if your views don't align, your ideologies don't align with the people in charge of your operation, they can pull the plug on you, okay? Which is why Andrew Tate is now having to toe the line, okay? This is why Andrew Tate is having to do as he told. He is being told what to do. He has to do as he's told, like a good little boy. Okay, he went from being the top G, from being an alpha male, okay, from being a the man to aspire to now being a good little boy, a good little follower, a good little student. As long as he does what daddy tells him to do, then Andrew Tate is a happy person.
That's why Sneako did it. The song's inappropriate. You spent a whole Jewish podcast apology tour pointing the finger at me because of a song that offended the people that brought us into this war. You didn't spend the podcast tour talking about Epstein, talking about the Iran war.
And that's where the real drama started. Sneako publicly accused Tate of doing the exact thing he spent years warning people about, selling out. The accusation quickly exploded across social media. For years, Andrew Tate and his brother Tristan spoke loudly against certain streaming platforms. They claimed places like Kick were filled with gambling.
I mean, who the fuck advised Tate to even attack Sneako like that, okay? Like, the old Tate would have just stood on business. He would have been like, yeah, look, we went out, shit happened, okay, we move on, right? That's all he needed to say. He didn't need to push blame on anyone, right? Like, you know, it is, you know, the song that was played in that club, right? You know, even the maker, the producer of that song, Kanye West, even he disowned the song, saying, look, man, I was in a bad mental place while I made it. You know, it shouldn't have been made. And, you know, I don't want people promoting that song anymore, right? Even he backtracked, okay? Because it's not about, you know, like, okay, like there's freedom of speech, but there's also, you know, being a good person, right? There's also not being a fucking dick, right? You know, a lot of people died in the Holocaust, right? While riling people up, okay? Okay, I don't care what you think of Israel or not, right? But like, as a human being, right? If a group of people were subjected to, you know, like barbaric punishment, right? Whether even if you believe it's a conspiracy, okay? But many people, you know, who were alive during the Holocaust have now passed away, okay? But their ancestors, their grandchildren, their children, right? Their great grandchildren, people parts of their community, now they believe that, you know, their people were wronged during the Holocaust, okay? And they're very hurt by those actions. Don't be a fucking dick about it. Do you know what I mean? Be like, yeah, look, man, like, you know, yeah, you know, I feel your pain. You know, it's just, you know, in those moments, it's okay to be performative, right? Because you're just trying to reassure somebody that, you know, you are also not a dick, that I believe your pain. You know, let's stop spreading more hate, okay? And, you know, the whole thing about like whether the Holocaust happened, okay, Holocaust deniers or whatever, like when I'm somebody who grew up in Germany, right? I spent the first 10 years of my life in Germany. And my father, when he moved to Germany, right, my father lived there about 25-30 years. His the woman who lived across him was a Jewish woman, okay? She was an elderly Jewish woman, and she is somebody who was actually in a concentration camp, right? Okay, and she used to, you know, like once or twice a month, I used to go around the house. You know, like she was very kind to our family. She had no children of her own. She had one brother who also survived. I think her parents both passed away in the Holocaust. Okay, so it was her and her brother who were still alive. So she had one relative in the whole of Germany. And she is, you know, she was a very kind lady, very sweet lady. You know, she helped me. You know, I would go around the house and we'll bake cakes. Do you get what I mean? Like we bake cakes. She'd had all these amazing books, you know, of like wildlife and you know, such like bears and lions, and we'll sit there and she'll just like literally like educate me on like, you know, on all these animals, okay? And then, you know, like she'll give me, I think she even gave me like 2 or 3 of her books, okay? She was very kind. She didn't have much, this lady, right? She lived off of the state. She was very, you know, she wasn't a very wealthy woman. Okay, and I remember one time she did kind of explain to me, you know, she tried to share, you know, what happened to her during her childhood, okay? Because she had a picture of a piano in her hallway, and she was telling us, you know, me, and I think my mother was there as well. She was saying that when I was like, you know, this old, you know, like these people came and they stripped us naked and they, you know, they put us out on the street, you know, and then they took us into this, you know, jail, prison type camp, you know, and it was very tragic. And like this is before this, I was like 7 or 8 years old, okay? So I had no concept of what the world wars were, right? Of what happened, of what the Holocaust was. I didn't have no concept of this, okay? But I knew that something bad happened to this woman and she survived it. And then, you know, she was just sharing her experience to us, right? And look, I don't know the historic context. I didn't know the historic context back in the day, like at that age, but I knew this woman felt some pain because I could see it on her face. Okay, she was, you know, she was tearing up in her eyes. And, you know, when somebody comes along and says, you know, they didn't believe, they're a Holocaust denier, they don't believe in the Holocaust, I'm like, you know, like I've met a Holocaust survivor, like, and she had no reason, right, to tell me and my mother, like, like two people who didn't even know anything about this war, right? An 8-year-old child, right? Like why is she telling me, her story? Okay, if she's like part of some big conspiracy. No, these events did happen, right? Whether the numbers are true or not, I don't know. I'm not a historian, okay? However, sometimes you just need to step back and think, you need to understand people's emotions, and you need to be kind, okay? And I believe, like, that is what we really need to do. This is how we need to live. The world is becoming a more and more fucked up place, right? And it will take new leaders, new people in charge to bring about peace on earth, which is what we are all about here on this channel. Okay, don't allow people, fake charlatans like Sneako and Andrew Tate, to win, to be the leaders of a conspiratorial world. Okay, just be a good person. The world needs more good people in leadership positions. Okay, and you need to be that person, right? If it ain't you, who the fuck will it be? Because you cannot trust anybody else. Okay, you need to place that trust within yourself. Be be counted. Okay, step up, right? This is your moment. If you ever felt like you wanted to do something great in life, this is your chance now. Be seen, be counted, be heard. Okay, be the leader that the world needs. Okay, I am sending out a message to the people. I'm assembling the Avengers. This is a bat signal I'm sending out. Okay, take the hero's journey. Okay, heed the call. Become somebody who is relevant. Okay, become a subject matter expert and start your kingdom today. Okay, be seen, be counted, be the king that the world needs.
Gambling streams, adult content, and things they believed were damaging to online culture. They told their audience clearly, stay away from it. But earlier this year, Tate suddenly started promoting that same platform. To many viewers, it looked like a complete flip. The same person who warned millions of people about that environment was now directing attention toward it himself. And once money and visibility entered the picture, critics started asking questions. Sneako didn't ignore it. He pointed straight at the contradiction and called it what he believed it was, a double standard. And that moment pushed the tension between them to a whole new level. Almost instantly, the internet locked in. Clips spread everywhere.
About the regime change mistake in Venezuela. In fact, you were waving around a gun, Andrew Tate, saying, yes, American empire, thank you, Trump. Now the Strait of Hormuz is closed. Why is that? Because they said, if you strike Iran, we're gonna cut off the oil supply. Where does US and Israel get other oil? From Venezuela. Dipshit. You fell for the propaganda. We need to invade Greenland. America's good. And then you're trying to run for Prime Minister of England? What side are you on? Are you a Muslim or do you have tech teams in Israel? Are you America first or Britain first? Are you a Zionist or what are you? Or are you just talking?
People started digging up old statements from Tate and comparing them to what he was doing now. Side-by-side comparisons flooded timelines. What once looked like an untouchable internet figure suddenly looked like someone being forced to explain a very uncomfortable situation. But what really stood out was the way Sneako approached it. He didn't rely on insults or screaming matches. Instead, he kept repeating one simple idea. Principles matter. If someone's...
This is the thing, you know what I mean? Like, when you go on the internet, when you are posting a lot of shit, when you are saying a lot of things to, be... to cause shock value, to be, provocative, to rile the people up. Okay, sometimes you're going to toe the line and say stuff that you don't mean, which is what he was doing. Okay, but people will dig that shit out. Okay, people will point out the flaws in your thinking, the the blind spots in your messaging. Okay, they're going to call you out if you are contradicting yourself. Okay, and what the world hates the most is people who are hypocrites, people who are full of hypocrisy, which is now Andrew Tate seems to be there. Okay, there has been a change in what he was saying, in how he was saying it. Okay, is he being controlled? It appears so. Okay, he is now toned the line to be a good little boy, and Sneako is just exposing the truths, the falsehoods that he is telling. Okay, he is now being showcased as a charlatan, as a fake
spends
G.
years telling millions of people to reject certain platforms and lifestyles. Viewers expect that same person to follow those rules too.
She heard Andrew Tate's begging to do a fight with me. They asked me not to talk about it, but fuck it, I really owe no loyalty to Tate at this offer. To counter offer, they want me to fight for $1 million. That's how desperate he is to reclaim the top G status. But I stole it. I don't know what audience he's trying to appeal to, but he's trying to do anything to get it back. So they want me to do 1 mil on Misfits. I don't really see any.
I mean, Sneako's got a massive audience, right? He is somebody who has, I think he's got like over 1 million followers on subscribers on YouTube, right? So that is just on one platform, the type of followers that he has, right? So he's got all these followers on YouTube, on Kick or wherever you watch him, right? So he's got a lot of followers. So Andrew Tate's strategy now is to beat him in a fight. Okay, to beat him in a fight and then, you know, win over his audience, because, you know, many people, especially in the manosphere, these people are so fickle that, you know, if Sneako was to lose a fight, people would say that he's now finished, that Sneako is now washed up, and then, you know, those followers, Andrew Tate is hoping that those followers would now go to him. Okay, most likely they'll just go to Clavicular because he is the rising star within that industry right now. But how that is how deranged Tate's brain is. That is what he thinks will happen, and that is what he's hoping to happen. Okay, but, you know, it's not even a fair fight because, first of all, the weight difference between Sneako and Andrew Tate is they're not in the same weight class, right? Because Sneako is much lighter than him, right? He you know, I think Andrew Tate is taller than him as well, you know, so it's not a fair fight. Whereas, like, you know, Chase Damore, yeah, the fight between Chase Damore and Andrew Tate, you know, at least they're with the same weight category. Okay, so with that fight, Andrew Tate has no, you know, he can't really hide behind anything, you know, when you break down that fight, because, you know, it was a fair fight on paper, right? You know, I know he came out after, said, oh, because I'm old, you know, I'm 10 years too old now. You know, but why take the fucking fight when you knew that? Okay, like, don't use it as an excuse, right? You are somebody who tried to pick a fight for yourself that you thought you would win on paper, and then you lost because you did not take it serious. You did not fight with the integrity that you say that you have.
Benefit from me. What is he, like 4 weight classes heavier? He already lost a lot of his fight aura. Let's be real.
Yeah, four weight classes. That's the difference between the two. So that, how is that a fair fight? Okay, I mean, I kind of do want Sneako to take it, because I think it will be funny if Sneako still beats him, despite being 4 weight classes lighter than him. I think that will be the absolute death of him, and then at least we can get rid of one fucking charlatan. Do you get what I mean? The space is getting more and more crowded. We need to get rid of people like him.
After fighting Chase Damore, I respect people who get into the ring, but after Chase Damore, the hype for your fight, after hyping yourself up for being a 4-time kickboxing champion, it's not the same as a...
People say, you know, they respect people who get, you know, I respect you for getting into the ring. Okay, no, because, like, ever since these fucking streamers, ever since these, you know, online content creators started boxing, it's really diluted and hurt the sport of boxing across the world. Okay, like, you know, boxing is, right, for real fighters, real heavyweights, right, real, you know, light heavyweights, whatever weight division you're in. Okay, it was about real boxers who, you know, pay their dues, and, you know, they are, you know, have a love for the sport and for the craft of what it is that is boxing. Okay, you know, you can't just have people like fucking Jake Paul and what's his brother called, Jake Paul and Logan Paul. This is what I mean. That this is how fucking irrelevant these people are. I even forgot what their name is, but like people like Logan Paul and Jake Paul, like, they're doing such a discredit and disservice to the sport. Okay, because, like, you know, Jake Paul fighting Mike Tyson, you know, it was an irrelevant fight because Mike Tyson is somebody who's retired and he's just done it for, you know, as a man in his 60s. Like, who wants to see a, you know, 30-year out of prime boxer get into the ring, right? Like, I get it for the fanboys, you know, oh yeah, one last hurrah, but it's like, nah, man, like, you need to see people in their prime, people who have dedicated, you know, years to the sport in order for them to get so good that they are the best in the world, instead of, you know, these fake internet personas getting into a ring to hash out some beef in order for them to generate views and make a bag. Do you know what I mean? We want to see real athletes, not these fake internet personalities.
And because Tate himself created that standard, the criticism started hitting much harder. At that point, the conversation stopped being about streaming platforms. It became about credibility. Does Andrew Tate still stand on the same principles he built his brand around?
He doesn't. Andrew Tate does not stand on anything anymore. He is willing to sell himself off to the highest bidder. Okay, he is now auctioning himself off. Right, he is literally like the webcam girl that he used to be. He used to manage. Right, he is now the webcam girl being controlled by somebody else. He is being told what to do. He is being pimped out.
While critics say Tate appears to be adjusting his message for visibility, Sneako has been presenting himself as someone who refuses to bend on his beliefs. He's spoken about global issues, taken strong positions, and repeatedly says he won't compromise his integrity just to stay popular online. Whether people agree with him or not, he's trying to show consistency. Meanwhile, critics keep bringing up a series of awkward moments tied to Tate.
Say that the greatest fraud check of all time happened on Saturday when Andrew Tate lost to Chase.
It was a fraud check, okay? Because you can't go around for years telling the world how great you are, what a perfect specimen of a man that you are, right? Creating this false persona, because right, like the amount of people who got hurt by his messaging, right? Who, because he was somebody who was, very charismatic, okay, somebody very entertaining, right? And many people believed into that standard of what a man should be, right? Even he can't live up to the standard that he put up, right? He pretended to, and then many people are looking at that standard because they have no standard of their own, right? Because they are depressed, because they are lonely, they have many problems in their life. Okay, Andrew Tate used and abused these people in order for him to build a following, to stand on on top of these people and make a mockery of them in essence, to make them feel less than, not secure, to make them feel like shit, right? And then many people would compare themselves to somebody like this fake Andrew Tate, and and they turned that energy into self-hatred, into depression, right? And then many people ended up feeling very lost, okay, because of his messaging, right? So now that he got called out, now that he was exposed as a fraud, it is a good thing. Okay, it is the universe balancing itself out. It is karma in action. This is why you need to be in your life purpose. You cannot be a fraud. You need to be your truest self. And what I help my clients with is we remove any self-doubt that you might have in your head. We ensure that you are free and able to express yourself in the truest form of your authentic self, to express who you are, what you are about, your knowledge that you have hidden within yourself. Okay, we need you to be in your life purpose. We need you to do what you enjoy most in this world, to be a happy individual, in order to gain new knowledge, in order to build new insight for the human race. Okay, be a leader for these people, become the leader that the world needs, become the leader that you need. Okay, because only you can count on yourself. Okay, you can only trust yourself. Okay, this is why I'm looking for 100 people who understand what it is that I'm doing, what it is that I'm trying to accomplish here on this channel. I want you to join the Amichis, join the Royal Alliance that I'm forming, where we have 100 kings, building 100 kingdoms in order for us to isolate ourselves from the world problems, the evil elites that has infiltrated the top of the world. Okay, we are the new world order. We are the new people. We are the de facto rulers of the world. Okay, we will win. We cannot be stopped. This is inevitable.
More. He should have never taken this fight. If there was any sort of doubt about him winning, he should have never taken this fight. And now he's going online and he's doing the babyface thing of like...
I like the fact that on his laptop, he's got Nottingham Forest, 2-time European winner badge, just randomly on his fucking laptop.
You have to live. And I'd rather try and fail. No, that's not who you...
One example people mention often is his loss in a widely discussed match against TikTok creator Chase Demore. The clip spread quickly across social media and instantly turned into memes and reaction videos. For critics, it became another moment used to challenge the powerful image Tate had built online. On top of that, some viewers also pushed back against several comments Tate made about international conflicts. Critics said the statements sounded confusing or inconsistent, and those clips circulated quickly across the internet. All of it added more pressure to the situation, and
it's all based off a fake image that he created. Okay, even all his supercars, right? He says he owns X amount of supercars, right? A lot of his supercars are actually just rented. Okay, he's friends with somebody who has a supercar rental agency, and he literally just fucking borrows cars in and out from that guy, and which is why he's able to be surrounded by so many cars. Okay, because he's trying to portray this fake lifestyle that he has. His Bugatti that he got, his Bugatti, right? That he got it because he approached a Bugatti dealer, right? A worker, an agent for a showroom, right? And he said to him, look, if you give me this car, right, I will boost your profile, okay, of your brand, right? I will bring so many eyeballs to your brand because because he was obviously at the time was able to show them his marketing strategy, which worked, for his own brand, right? And how much money he was pulling into us as in university, right? So he was saying, look, I'm able to curate and market my website, my brand, right? And if you give me this car, I'm gonna have that car, that Bugatti, in all the marketing material for Hustlers University, for the real world, right? So in essence, it is just free advertising for you guys. All you gotta do is give me the fucking car for free. I bet you that's what he did. That is how he got the car. And I think there is a video where he actually said how how beneficial it was for them to give him a car, or allow to buy a car. But I reckon it was leased. They said you can have it for like X number of years, in exchange for the amount of viewers he would get, okay, the amount of eyeballs that he can get on Bugatti to make it more relevant and more known worldwide.
In the middle of that storm, Sneako kept pointing out what he believed were contradictions. Instead of creating chaos himself, he framed it like he was simply holding up a mirror and letting people decide what they saw. Soon the clash between Sneako and Andrew Tate stopped looking like a normal internet argument. It started looking like a test of credibility. But the drama didn't stop there. At one point, Tate allegedly hinted about releasing embarrassing material connected to Sneako online. Posts began circulating suggesting that Sneako had old leaked images or embarrassing content from the past. Instead of panicking, Sneako flipped the situation completely. He went live on stream and addressed it before it could spread further. By speaking about it directly, he removed the shock factor Tate was allegedly trying to create.
So I think this is to do with the fact that he let someone else fuck his girlfriend when Sneako was very young. When he was 18, 19, he let somebody else bang his girlfriend. And he watched it, kind of a cuck move. I don't know, man. Like, I don't know why he did it, but at the end of the day, that can be excused, I guess, by to youth. All right. He's not that way now. And the fact that Andrew Tate has to stoop so low to discredit something that Sneako did many, many years ago when he was a child, or a very, very young man, an inexperienced man, a man who didn't know any better at the time. The fact that Tate is going that low, it shows how desperate Andrew Tate is in order to, cause reputational damage to Sneako's brand, to Sneako's business, to his image online.
Sneako openly explained that some of the images being shared were fake, while others were extremely old jokes from a comedy podcast. Owning the story immediately changed the tone. Instead of looking defensive, he appeared calm and straightforward about it. He also pointed out what he believed was another double standard. Sneako questioned why Tate would try to shame someone over old internet drama, while Tate himself has faced years of controversies and criticism surrounding his own online businesses. At that point, the situation started looking like something bigger than just internet gossip. It looked like a shift in influence happening right in front of everyone. For years, and
that's what it is, you have to realize. It is just internet gossip. It is just literally just fucking two performative males pretending that they're very, very masculine, pretending that they're very that they are the ideal version of what a man should be, that you should follow them and do what they say, do as they live, right, in order for you to be seen as a man, right? It's all performative. And then what do they do when shit really hits the fan? When there is a fallout, they gossip each other like little girls. Okay, the thing that they tell you not to do, right? The things that they tell you not to do, and not how to behave, right? Right? They go and do that anyway, right? right? Which is why they're gossiping about each other, causing reputational damage. This is how girls fight, okay? They tell each other, make up lies behind each other's back to discredit each other, to make them to be painted out like whores. This is what girls do, okay? They call each other's names, right? They fabricate evidence, and they both are coming out really looking worse off. This is not, and nobody wins in this, right? This is, in essence, I mean, Sneako, I guess, is the winner because he exposes Tate for being a liar, but like the fact that you even having to speak about Andrew Tate is also a low as well. Do you get what I mean? Because it is I mean, I get it. Look, you got to defend yourself, right? But in the essence, nobody's coming out of this looking good. Do you get what I mean? This is the worst of the manosphere. This is the end of the manosphere.
Andrew Tate dominated online conversations. His clips were everywhere. His opinions shaped debates across podcasts and social media. But the energy around him today feels different. Instead of leading the conversation, critics say he now spends more time reacting to drama, chasing viral moments, and throwing challenges at other creators just to generate headlines. And when audiences start noticing that shift, it changes everything, because the internet moves incredibly fast. The same audience that builds
Yeah, because Andrew Tate is not living his life purpose anymore, okay? He is now trying to live up to an image, somebody else's image, because other people are now trying to get involved to correct his image, okay? They are telling him what to do, what messaging to put out. Andrew Tate has no say over it, okay? He has been exposed for the fraud that he is, and now he is somebody who is very, very sad, okay? He is not in his life purpose. He is not an expert anymore because, he tried to pull off being an expert in masculinity, in being free. In the end, all he is doing is being a very, very narcissistic psychopath who is willing to do whatever it takes to stay relevant in order for him to keep that money machine going, for you to subscribe to his website, for him to cash in on the viral moments that he can create, okay? This is the end of Andrew Tate. I'm telling you now, okay? This is a guy who is, I mean, it's going to become more and more cringe to follow this guy, to hear this guy talk. It's going to become a hot mess. Do you get what I mean? Like, it is going to be a sad decline of a former world star.
Someone into a massive online figure can move on just as quickly. 1 year, a creator dominates every timeline, every podcast clip, every debate. The next year, they're fighting just to stay relevant.
This is why, on this channel, what we do is we grow steadily, okay? We grow in at a steady pace. We are becoming subject matter experts. We are seen as points of authority, okay? Not because we are going viral, because we are making audacious and scandalous claims, okay? We're not trying to go viral. We are trying to find the people online who understand our message, who want to fuck with us, okay? We have the same belief systems, we have the same values, so naturally we will be aligned, and it will be natural for us to be friends, right? And this isn't even me. I'm not trying to go viral. I'm not trying to build an audience, okay? I'm just trying to put my message out there in the hopes that somebody sees this, right? But the person who sees this would naturally be my friend in real life anyway. Do you get what I mean? The only thing that I'm doing is, instead of fucking meeting these people in real life, I'm sending out a message and broadcasting a message, because the internet is a great tool to for millions and billions of people to see you, right? So somewhere, somehow, some way, the right people will find this video, okay? They will find it, they will click on it, they'll be interested in who I am, okay? And then these people will naturally be aligned for me to come and work with them, for us to come build things together, come up with new creative solutions, for us to be the ruling class that I want to build, okay? I'm looking for people who are ambitious. I'm looking for people who really want to change the world, change the game, okay? We are the new ruling elites, okay? We will be the ultimate winners in life, because it is our destiny. We cannot be stopped. We cannot be contained. It is who we are. It is what we are all about.
Relevant. Many viewers believe that shift might be happening right now. The tactics that once helped Andrew Tate explode across the internet simply don't carry the same weight anymore. Shock value fades, controversy gets repetitive, and audiences eventually start asking tougher questions. At the same time, other creators begin gaining attention in different ways. Instead of relying only on viral arguments and loud moments, they focus on consistency between what they say and how they act.
Yeah, in the end, I mean, if you analyze Andrew Tate, he was just a very, very loud, funny mouthpiece. He was very entertaining because he was saying shit that nobody ever heard of before, right? He was bringing his message was controversial. He was riling up and rubbing up people the wrong way, and it was very, very funny and entertaining. Okay, and he done it very charmingly, very charismatically. But it was all an act. Okay, he is a theater kid. Okay, he is somebody who is very performative. Even if you look at his whole life, he's a two-time reality TV star. Okay, he went on Big Brother. He went on this other travel show that he done. His whole agenda was to become famous. Ever since he was a young boy, okay, he wanted to be famous. He wanted to be relevant. He wanted to be seen. Maybe his father never paid him enough attention when he was little, which he has stated actually many times, that his dad was always out, doing CIA missions, being out and about, playing chess apparently, right? When in essence, in reality, it was probably missions on behalf of the CIA. Because he was a wounded child. He was a child of divorce. Didn't get enough attention of daddy. What he then needed to feel like he was seen, that he was somebody important, which is why he set up his life to chase fame. Okay, and he got what he wanted. You cannot deny that, though, right? He got what he wanted. He accomplished the mission that he set out for himself, but it was a very shallow mission. Okay, he didn't want to change the world. He just wanted to be famous. He became very controversial. He had the opportunity to change the world. I will give him that as well. But his personality just didn't align with the mission. Okay, it was very shallow personality that he had. Okay, and he's willing to do anything and do whatever it takes for money and fame. Okay, and and to be viral and relevant. Okay, instead of actually helping people, instead of building connections and saving people. That is what we are all about on this channel. We want to change the world. We want to bring forward a new world, a better system in place for the people to live in, because the world is fucked. All right, the world is fucked right now, and it will take very, very strong leaders, very, very strong heroes to change the world, and that is what we're all about. We are here starting our hero's journey. We are assembling the Avengers. We are becoming the new world order. It is our mission. It is our destiny. This is what we're all about. If you want to be somebody who is not standing in the background, an NPC who wants to be the main character, who wants to change the world and be seen as a point of authority, be a leader, be seen as a king, this is what you need to do. You need to reach out to me. Let's see if we are aligned, if we can work together and, save the world, because the world is fucked. Okay, many people are lost. And, if it's not us, then we allow the space to be opened up for people like Andrew Tate and Sneako to come in and lead the youth and the world astray. Okay, but that is it for today. Thank you very much, and I will see you tomorrow.